Friends. Today we're going to talk about the special status that's been given to some states and union territories under the Indian Constitution. It spans from Article 371 to Article 371J. Now, we know that the special status given to Jammu and Kashmir was revoked a year ago. So, Jammu and Kashmir no longer has a special status, and it was under Article 370 that's been scraped, so that particular article does not exist anymore. So Part 21 of the Constitution contains special provisions for 12 states. They are Maharashtra, Gujarat, Nagaland, Assam, Manipur, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Sikkim, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Goa and Karnataka. And Goa does not really have a special status anymore, but it is just part of the Constitution. Now, what is it meant by special status? Now, originally, when the Constitution was made, under the Constitution Assembly, there was no particular or there was no such thing as special provisions at all. But they were made in the context when the states were reorganized, or sometimes when the union territories were made into states, etc. So there was a lot of reservation from the part of the people when the states were reorganized, or when the union territories were made into states, or when they were particularly being part of incorporated into India. So in order to give voice to their consideration or some concerns of being part of a very large culture or very large constitution of a union of states, that's when this particular special status was added into the constitution to voice the concerns. What is the intention behind it? To meet the aspiration of the people of backward regions of some particular states, or to protect the cultural and economic interests of the tribal people of the states, to deal with the disturbed law and order condition in some part of the states, especially if there are insurgencies in some part of the states, and to protect interests of the local people of the states. So basically, throughout Article 371 to 371J, these particular four intentions are being articulated. So Maharashtra and Gujarat. Please remember the very first video we did in this chapter, where we were talking about how the states and union territories came to be, how they were reorganized and how they were formed. Unless you understand that, the context of the special organization, special status may not be clear. So remember how Gujarat and Maharashtra was formed and how they were bifurcated from the state of Bombay. So if you remember that, this would be particularly easy. So Maharashtra and Gujarat were given a special status, and the governor of Maharashtra and Gujarat would have a special responsibility for the establishment of a separate development board for Vidarbha, Marathwada and the rest of Maharashtra, Saurashtra, Kutch and the rest of Gujarat. Now these particular areas were quite backward, especially depending completely on agriculture, but battered by difficulty in weather situations and all that. So the farmers in these particular areas were facing a lot of difficulties, actually even today. So in order to give these areas a boost in economic and social situations, special development boards were meant to be set up under the leadership of the governor of Maharashtra and Gujarat, and every year a report would be sent to the state legislative assemblies on working of these boards. Also, equitable allocation of funds for the developmental expenditure. So for these places, there might be a special consideration of funds for their developments. Also, an equitable arrangement for the facilities of technical education, vocational training, and employment opportunities in the state service for the people belonging from the areas aforementioned. This is the special status given to Maharashtra and Gujarat under Article 371, which is slightly different from any kind of provisions given to other states. The second state we'll be talking about is Nagaland. Now, as we know, Nagaland is a tribal state and which was battered by insurgency for quite a long period of time, and even today it is not completely shut out. So it is in that context that Nagaland has been given a special status. So the acts of parliament relating to the following matters, such as the religious and social practices of the Nagas, Naga customary laws and procedures, administration of civil and criminal justice involving decisions according to Naga customary law, and ownership and transfer of land and its resources. All these things, these particular four matters, since the Naga tribal laws are already pretty strong there, the parliamentary laws cannot be straight established or implemented in Nagaland. Instead, the Naga State Legislative Assembly has to decide whether these laws should be applicable in the state or not. Now, this is in the context of the strong tribal law already established in the state. Also, the ownership and transfer of its land and resources. Again, the tribal laws already persist there, and the tribal people have a very strong connection to their land, and they're dependent on their land. That's why there is such kind of an exception. Also, since there are a lot of insurgencies that were taking place in Nagaland, a particular area called Tuensang district, there has to be a 35-member regional council for Tuensang district, and they elect the Tuensang members of the assembly, and also a member from that particular district will be a minister for the affairs of that particular place. The governor will have the final say on all these Tuensang related matters. Now, why governor? Because for the interest of the sovereignty and unity of the place, so the parliament has suggested that instead of the state representative, the central representative or the representative of the federal government will be able to do a better job in maintaining the law and order of the place. That's why the governor has been given such kind of a responsibility. So basically, in order to protect their tribal conventions and their resources, also to protect the state from having more insurgencies, Nagaland has been given a special status. Now, Assam, again, in order to protect the interests of the tribal areas of people, under Article 371b(6), the President is empowered to provide for the creation of a committee of the Assam Legislative Assembly consisting of members elected from the tribal areas of the state. Another state, Manipur, similarly from the northeast, Article 371c tries to provide for the interests of the tribal people. So basically, there will be a creation of the committee of the Manipur Legislative Assembly from the hill areas of the state. So basically, not just the mainland, but also the people from tribal areas has to be given representation in the Legislative Assembly. And also the governor will have a special responsibility to check on the proper functioning of that committee, and the governor has to give a report of that, of their administration of the hill areas. And also the central government can give directions to the state government about the administration of the hill areas. Now, the hill areas is dominated by the tribal people, and you have to understand that all these places, they are not dominated by one particular tribe alone, but even one larger tribe will have many subsections, and all these areas have all these tribes have their own particular language, their own particular religion. Even though they might be living in the same vicinity, they have their own diversity. So in order to protect them, in order to give them their due voice, that is why the constitution has given this special status, and the administration and assembly of the hill areas. Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, so, this particular article was amended in 2014 when Telangana was formed. Again, it is to take care of the backward regions of these places. The president must ensure equitable opportunities and facilities in public employment, education, and from different parts of the state. So when Andhra Pradesh and Telangana was bifurcated, there was a lot of concern that people from the backward region will be left behind in terms of administration or in education or public service employment opportunities. So to answer those concerns, so people have to answer those concerns, this particular article was formed and amended. So there has to be equitable opportunities and facilities in public employment and education from different parts of the state, so that no people from any part of the state will be left behind. And there will be a special class or classes of post in civil service, so that all people from all parts of the state will be represented and no one shall be left behind from admission in any university of the state or government run educational institution. And there has to be an administrative tribunal set up outside the jurisdiction of the High Court to deal with issues of appointment, allotment, or promotion in the state civil service. So the article does not leave a loophole for any kind of discrimination towards any people in the state. So basically, there was a lot of discrimination of people from the region of Telangana. So that is why this particular article was made. Now, Sikkim, as we know, Sikkim has a very peculiar history and a very peculiar way of becoming part of India in 1975. So, what are the special status given to Sikkim? The Legislative Assembly of the Sikkim can elect the representative of Sikkim in the House of the People, also to protect the rights and interests of various sections of the populations of Sikkim. Parliament can provide for a number of seats in the Assembly which may be filled only by candidates from those sections. So again, Sikkim is also, although a very small state, a very diverse population. So all this population, the different sections of the population has to be given representation in the Legislative Assembly. And also the governor have the responsibility for peace and for equitable arrangement, for ensuring the social and economic advancement of different sections of the people. So again, till 1975, the Sikkim land already had its own laws and its own customs. So none of those laws and customs were to be made null and void after it became part of India. So those laws will have a special standing, and also the representation of different kind of people. It is to address these two concerns Sikkim was given a special status in 1975. And then again, Mizoram, similar to Nagaland and Manipur, the religious and social practices of the Misos are the most important community in Mizoram. Again, that is Mizoram is not a homogeneous population. There are plenty of tribes present, but Misos are the most dominant ones. Now, their religious and social practices, their customary laws and procedures will not be changed by the parliament. The parliament can have no say in these whatsoever unless the Legislative Assembly of the Mizoram decides. Also, the ownership and transfer of resources in Mizoram will not come under the parliamentary law. And Arunachal Pradesh, similar to the other northeastern states, the governor will have a special responsibility with regard to law and order. Now, Arunachal Pradesh also is a special case because it is a bordering state with China, and China has always claimed that Arunachal Pradesh is a place. Arunachal Pradesh belongs to China. China at not a single point of time believed that Arunachal Pradesh belongs to India. So it is a very special case of border issue. So in order that, so it's a special law and order kind of issue. In Arunachal Pradesh. So, and also if there is a question whether particular matter, if the governor has to exercise his own individual judgment, the decision of the governor will be final. Now, all these special power for governor is being given in northeast area, as I said earlier in the case of Manipur, in order to protect the integrity and unity of the country. The parliament or the constitution makers or the amendment makers felt that it would be better to give the authority to the governor, who is a representative of the parliament rather than a representative of the state. Now, is it undemocratic or is it non-federal? That's a whole different question. But in these areas, the governor will have a special power. Now, Karnataka. This particular special status for Karnataka is solely for the establishment of a separate development board for the Hyderabad Karnataka region. Now you may wonder, what is Hyderabad Karnataka region? So please remember, when Karnataka was formed, or when states were reorganized, the current state of Karnataka, a large chunk of that place was part of the Hyderabad under Hyderabad Nizam. It was part of the Hyderabad state. So a large part of that was cut from Hyderabad and was made into the Mysore part of state, and that's why a Karnataka state was formed, by integrating certain territory from the Mysore state, also certain territories from the Hyderabad state. So the integrated part from Hyderabad, there were people who had a concern that that particular region may be left behind in development. So basically it is northern and northeastern part of Karnataka that we were talking about, this Hyderabad Karnataka region. It is also called Kalyana Karnataka, that particular region. So in 2012, special status was given to that particular region for their equitable developmental opportunities. It is felt that a lot of the development was mostly concentrated in the southern part of Karnataka, and the northern part of Karnataka was left behind, or there was a negligence from the part of the administration. So in order to address that question, this particular Article 371J was made. So there was concern about equitable allocation of funds for developmental expenditure, and people from that particular region would be given equitable opportunities and facilities in education and government jobs, and also a reservation of proportion of jobs and seats in educational and vocational training in proportion to their population. And also the Kalyana Karnataka region will be the government jobs will be reserved for people from that region by birth or domicile. Now, these are the most important special status given to the 12 states. Now, you will understand that these are not particularly different from each other. Anyway, basically it is to give equal development to all regions of the states, and also to address any questions the tribal regions will have.